So, without further ado, as we continue our celebration of Women's History Month, please allow me to welcome our speaker, Kara North. Kara, the session is all yours.
Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. As I transition and get my slides up, I'd love to know where you're joining from. So in the chat, if you would tell me where you're located at, that would be awesome. I am coming in from Columbus, Ohio, where we have this thing called the sun today. It's pretty nice. So, all right, give me one moment here. All right. Good to see everyone. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so, oh, is the chat disabled? Sorry, Casey. We'll get this fixed for you all. Hang tight.
No, it should be on. They might just need to turn it on.
Okay.
I have a small feeling, Casey, we need to go and change it as admins over in the hamburger on the right-hand side and open that up and make sure that everybody can chat with everybody.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren, for letting us know. We'll get that fixed. Really excited about everyone being here. And then if you would like, I have a QR code with my resources today, and I am really honored and privileged to talk about something I think a lot of us are dealing with currently, disruption. And leading through disruption and how you can fan your flame and persevere throughout it. All right. So, when we talk about leadership, sometimes people are like, "Ugh, leadership." But really, what I want to spend my time talking with you all about today, and I'm hoping that we can get this chat situated because I have some questions I'd like to ask you all and get your all's feedback on as well, is, how can you lead through disruption? How can you advocate for yourself, which I think is really important, and of course, do the hard work that truly makes a difference. So, I'm going to be sharing some of my experiences and lessons learned. And again, if you feel comfortable doing so, I'd also love to hear some of your own experiences as well in the chat. So, I want to start just to level set with a quote from Rumi, who way above their time, like way before their time, like had so many awesome quotes and nuggets and just good stuff. And the quote is, "Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep." Now, this is about waking up to our own potential and learning to advocate for ourselves and others. So, today, what we're going to be chatting about here is we're going to be talking about how you build those meaningful connections. I think connecting with people and networking is more critical and important than ever. I want to be very clear that leadership is definitely not a solo journey. I always love to say on the shoulders of giants for everything that I've been able to do. It certainly hasn't been a solo effort, and we're going to kind of discuss and go through that. Going to talk about the having the courage to advocate for yourself. It's hard to do, and I am so guilty of this myself. I don't like tooting my own horn, and we're going to talk about how do you get people to toot your own horn for you. And in that, you still do have to speak up and claim your value. And last but not least, talking about embracing disruption and doing the hard work. Sometimes the hardest challenges shape us the most. All right, so I'm gonna pause because I did have a, okay, chat's still disabled. Chat's still disabled. Okay. Yeah, isn't technology wonderful? Okay. All right. hopefully we can get that going here because I did have a question I wanted to pose to you all. Again, if you feel comfortable sharing, if you don't, that's completely fine as well. I like to think that this is going to be a safe, somewhat spicy environment. And we're going to get a little spicy a little bit later. Hey, open it up with flames. We got to have a little bit of fire growing throughout it, right? But I just want to say, whatever is said here stays here, but whatever is learned here leaves here, hopefully. So hopefully you can take that on your journey. So I'm curious, and you can just kind of put in your skill, let it simmer. What is a challenge that you face that's made you stronger? And this can be something personal, this can be something professional, it can be a lot of stuff. So I'll give you a moment to kind of noodle that over and think about it. Sure, there's probably, if you're like me, there's a lot of different options to go with there. And being pretty vulnerable here, I'll definitely say probably the biggest one I went through is when I lost my mom. And I was just in a really bad headspace. And I feel like there was a person I was before that, and there's this person that's still trying to pick up the pieces of that. But it has made me a whole lot stronger. And it's really made me push things and be uncomfortable, asking difficult questions with myself. And it can be really difficult to kind of go through. But I'll share a little bit more of that journey along the way. Okay. Still no chat. I'm gonna keep moving and grooving. All right. Okay, we'll get it. I have faith and confidence that we'll get it. So, all right. So I'm gonna transition and go to another Rumi quote here. Be like a fire, burn all that you touch into love, but don't burn yourself. Leadership and advocacy is all about maintaining your flame. You need to fuel it with purpose to make sure it doesn't burn out. And you also have to protect it because there are folks out there that would love nothing more than to extinguish that flame that you have. And I love, love, love to say that blowing out someone else's candle doesn't make yours burn any brighter. It's true. There's enough opportunities and success out there for everyone to have a piece. So I don't really feel like that's necessary. Oh, I see some stuff coming here in the chat from the previous. I'm so sorry to hear about that. So someone lost their partner. Yes, I completely understand that, and my sincere condolences. I'm so sorry about that. Um, Big shift for me is recently pivoting to a new job within my field, sales, from sales to dev management. Oh, sales to they were in dev management and then they pivoted to sales. Okay. Thank you. Thank you both for sharing. I really appreciate that. Again, hopefully we'll get some of this situated and keep on going. So, when you think about your fire and your flame, I want you to just pause and think about your career. Maybe you are in a good spot. Maybe you're looking for a promotion opportunity. Maybe you're looking for an opportunity outside your organization. Maybe you're just looking for an opportunity. Maybe you're thinking, I'd like to maybe pivot into a different space. I want you to think about what makes you happy and what fuels your passion and what can ignite that fire inside you to keep pushing forward. Yes, we got chat. Thank you. Casey, Kristen, you're the best. All right, so I'll pause there because I really would like to catch back up and get it. Yes, please chat away. This is going to be so much better with your all's input. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so I'm curious, number one, if you'd be kind enough to share with me what fuels your passion. I'll just kind of put it in your skillet and let it simmer there. What fuels your passion? And then we'll talk a little bit about what ignites that fire pushing. This is going to sound really cheesy and you can laugh, and that's completely okay because I can't hear the laughs or see the eye rolls through this platform. But what really fuels my passion is good stuff. And what I mean by that is helping somebody, creating something that pushed my professional boundaries and made me better. Just something that is a good outcome. That is what fuels me. And I'm thinking, okay, what win can I get today? Just one win. It can be something super simple, could be something at work, could be something outside of work. But as long as I get that one win, that keeps me going. I don't know about you all. If anybody would like to share in the chat, I'd love to hear them. All right, now they're cooking in and coming in. Awesome. So Sarah, hey Sarah, love to see others succeed. Completely agree. Good stuff. Lori, when I discover that someone changed what they do based on a course I wrote, it worked out great. Yeah, that's so awesome. So awesome. We scrolling up here. Cheryl says being able to help. Oop, it just scrolled away. Being able to help. Justice and equality. That's very, very good too, Donna. All right. Dogs. Lauren. Surprised you didn't say brains, but dogs work. Chrissy, hey Chrissy. Love working with a team in the trenches together, working toward a unified goal, which I thrive. Thank you all. I really appreciate sharing that with me. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit here about just how you get into leadership, how you hone your leadership, okay? Because when it comes to leadership, of course, skill matters, of course, knowledge matters, but relationships are really what drives success. If you think about it, people don't just promote talent, but they promote people that they trust and they promote people that they enjoy working with. And one of the best ways to advocate for yourself is building relationships that matter. So you're like, okay, cool. How do I do that? I'll give you 3 tips to talk about how to build relationships that matter. And then again, in the chat, please feel free to share your tips as well. So I think one of the first ones is I think it's really critical to be present. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is making sure that in meetings, you're present, and that's hard to do sometimes, I know. In networking, being present, giving yourself those opportunities. But Donna has a great thing here in the chat. It's like, 99% of us are focused on others and not ourselves. Why as women are we like that? Yeah, but here's the thing, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I've been guilty of it way too many times in my career, being giving, and just completely burn out and need to take a mental health day or two or recharge my batteries. And it's all about balance. And I know that that's really difficult to achieve for a lot of us, but it's really critical that when we have those opportunities to be in meetings, when we have those opportunities to network, when we have those opportunities to connect with people, that we really focus on building relationships. One of the things that I think has been awful post COVID, well, there's a lot of things, but in this particular space is I feel like so many relationships and just people that kind of enter in your sphere are so transactional. They just want something from you of like, hey, can you look at this? Or hey, I've never met you before, but can you give me 30 minutes of your time for this? Or hey, blah, blah, blah. And of course, you want to help to the degree that you can, but you know, it's got to be something a little bit more tangible. So when we talk about building these more meaningful, long-term relationships, and I'm going to tease a little bit here in a moment, but there's a big difference in building those long-term, longitudinal relationships versus just the, hey, I need this, hey, peace out, bye, right? So it really pays dividends. It takes longer to forge those, but it's worth the investment long term. I promise you that it is. Uh, we go through our career in life with only one catcher's mitt on, not two. Instead of asking anyone for anything first, we have something. That's a good point as well. All right. Speaking of that, I do think it's important when you're building relationships to be of service in some way. And it can be small little things. It can be, curating something. The fact that so many folks follow me on LinkedIn isn't for my charming personality or good looks. It's because I curate jobs. And I've been consistent with that for the last 5 years, and I've slowly kind of growed that out. It didn't happen overnight, but that was something that I'm like, you know what? I can take a few minutes of my day, find some job posts, put it together, and put it in a little package and make it available for people. Because you never know when you might need someone to help you find a job, right? Especially with everything kind of going on. I'm not going to get super political here, but it can be just little things. It can be an extra set of eyes. It can just be, someone to vent to, like, hey, I've had a really bad day. Can somebody just listen to me for a little bit? I mean, there's so many things that you can do regardless of your expertise in this space, regardless of your tenure in this space, no matter if you're in learning development or not. You can be of service and you can help others, and I think it's really, really, really important to do so, because like I'll continue to say throughout this presentation, no one gets anywhere alone. And I completely agree, Lauren. Yeah, humbly without ego is really, really critical and sadly fleeting. And if you want to talk about a nice way for you to stand out career-wise, that's an easy layup that a lot of people don't even think about. And finally, for relationships, I think it's really critical to be memorable. And what I mean by that is just being yourself. Now, I will say that I think there is a difference between authenticity and transparency. To me, authenticity is you get me, versus transparency is to the degree that I share everything about myself with you. I have a good example. I am a proud cat mom. Got three beautiful cats, but if I'm chatting with one of my friends that I know is super allergic to cats and really not the biggest fan, I'm not going to tell them about their day-to-day interactions. But if I chat with other people that I know are cat fans, I'm going to probably share that with them a little bit, right? So you can be yourself. You can control the degree to which you share information about yourself. But I think that, it's 2025. The mentality and adage of needing to kind of wear this mask, I'm hoping we're getting further away from that you do have an opportunity to be yourself. Now, I do know there's a lot of different issues along some of that I won't necessarily get into, but I do think it's really important to be yourself. If you like to bring in little corny jokes, bring them in. If you are really passionate about a certain thing, bring it in. I'll pick on you, Lauren, because I know you're in the audience. Lauren Waldman loves brains. So anytime I think of a brain, I think of Lauren Waldman, So it's memorable. It's memorable. So that's another way that you can, again, build and forge those relationships. All right. Yes, and pirates. That's true too. So, again, my tips for building those relationships: being present, okay, being of service, and then also being memorable. Now, everything that I have shared up to this point is really assuming a lot. Now, here's one I want to throw at you. That's all like perfect world, right? That's all if I get a seat at the table, if I get the opportunity, if I have a job. What about disruption? So go ahead in the chat for me if you don't mind. When you hear the word disruption, it's a couple words that come to mind. Go ahead and let me know. What do you think? Disruption. What do you think? I say disruption. Okay. Effort. Yes. Oh, hey, Susan. Uh, oh, thank you, Lori. Adobe Firefly for all of those. Okay, we got effort, innovation, lots of effort. Yes, amen to that, Susan. Chaos, opportunity, big change. Okay, change, chaos. Danielle, I feel that. Uh, pain. Yeah, sometimes we have to create that road, right, Alana? Love that. Okay. Immediate response in the line of fire. So I'm hearing a lot of like action, big things, right? We often picture that when we think of disruption. But what if real lasting disruption doesn't really start with the big, the bold, and the loud? What if it starts about with taking something closer, something more personal? Could just be something tiny, right? When we think about disruption, I like to think about getting my first computer, and I got my first computer as a kid before the internet. There was just a whole world of possibility waiting to be discovered without a clear map. I remember just looking at the screen, being super excited. Back then, there were no Google searches, no instant answers, no easy connections to people around the world. Everything that I did was like a little experiment. I even remember typing in this thing called DOS and figuring out all this stuff, right? I really just wanted to kind of push the boundaries to see what the machine could do. Yeah, we did. You're darn right, Sarah. We did have the Oregon Trail, and Carmen San Diego and all these wonderful games as well. Maybe that's where my love of games came from. You never know. When you think about that, though, when you think about being in a moment like that, where you're ready to dive in, where you're ready to try things that maybe works, maybe doesn't work, you're wanting to explore and find things. If you look at it, that, my friends, that is the heart of disruption. It's about bringing that same curiosity, that same willingness to explore without a set path to the work that we do. Disruption is about seeing a world of possibility and having the courage to navigate it, even when there's no clear destination, and trusting that every step along the way, we're going to find something new. Now, I think that in learning and development, we are constantly in the front lines of change. Sometimes we see new technologies, sometimes we see new tools, sometimes we get new strategies thrown on us, right? And there's pressures for us to adapt quickly. But here's the truth, without that intentionality, disruption can just be another buzzword. It can feel really overwhelming rather than transformative. Now, if we're constantly reacting to every new tool, every new strategy, every new trend, we get caught in the noise rather than actually making a meaningful impact. And that goes even beyond our work, but even in our own personal lives as well. So I'm curious, I got another question for you here in the chat. How many of you, when you're navigating somewhere, let's say you're going on a trip, how many of you use a GPS and how many of you use a compass? I'm just curious. GPS or compass? Let me know in the chat. Okay, we got GPS, GPS, GPS. Okay, I'll take that, Danielle. Okay. Yeah, okay. Compass or map backup. Okay. Crystal map works. I mean, old school map works too, Crystal. Yep. Yeah, that's fair too, Alex, if you have reception. Okay. The sun, the stars, the moon, that's good stuff too. Okay. But I think overall, most of the things I saw here in chat say GPS. So I have an analogy, if you'll just humor me for a moment here. When we're thinking about disruption, when we're thinking about our careers, when we're thinking about leadership, okay? I want you to think about GPSs and compasses, all right? With a GPS, what are you doing? You're reacting to directions as they come. Whereas with a compass, you set that direction. you know where you want to go, and you're guiding yourself based on the bigger picture. All right. So, in our space, I do think intentional disruption, leading through disruption, we need to start thinking more like having a compass and less of having a GPS, because that way it is going to help us make decisions that align with our goals and values, not just the latest trends, not just the latest fads, right? And I think so many of us assume GPSs are going to guide our leadership journeys. If I just go in and do the work and do the work well, I'm going to get promoted. If only. That was the advice I got growing up. I don't know about you all, from my very well-meaning parents. Oh, just go in, give it 100%, and you'll just continue to go on up in your career. It doesn't work that way anymore. And honestly, I don't know if it ever truly worked that way at all. And especially as women, and I'm going to spend some time talking about that here in a moment. There's a lot of opportunities that don't even come through our doors, and we don't even have the opportunity to go for them, because I think so many of us do clutch onto that GPS of like, yes, I know that I need to, do this in my job, or I know that I need to get so many stretch assignments, or I know that I need to do this, hopefully to move up the ladder. Um, but you know what? When we turn the GPS off, throw it to the side, say, you know what, I'll come back to you maybe later, and we pull out our compasses, that, my friends, is when we actually dig in deeper as professionals. That's where we often forge the deepest connections. And that's also when we usually get those projects that stretch us, grow us, and nurture us to have clarity to make the next best decision for us. Okay. Thank you all. I appreciate the love there. It's a little cheesy. I figure my last name's North. I had to go there. So, all right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about disruption, okay? I really think that if we want to navigate purposefully, we really need to have kind of this steady light. And obviously, I was really into the analogies putting this together, so just stay with me here. But I want to think of it almost as a lighthouse, okay? Helping us move with intention rather than just having us kind of drift through the current. So, this particular framework, when we think about disruption, is really about three guiding questions that I'm hoping helps you stay on course. And then again, I have some different prompts that I'd like to share with you all and get your input on. Right, the first one, and hopefully we're asking this in everything, right? Is like, what is it that we're trying to do here? What is it that we're trying to achieve? And I really think, just as with a lighthouse, it has a specific purpose, right? It's supposed to guide ships safely through waters. Anything that we touch, whether it's a new strategy, a new piece of content, whatever that ends up being, new technology, right? We really should consider and connect it to something that is going to align with the things that we're doing in the business. And I really think without that defined purpose, we risk drifting, we risk losing that focus, and ultimately missing the mark. I will tell you, back in the Stone Age, very long time ago, when I was a brand new instructional designer at Amazon, I was added to a project for a seasonal product that we had. And it was an app called, I believe, Amazon Santa. And it was really cute. It was this little animation that basically kids would put a wish list together, and then it would make like Santa, looks like he's sending a letter to Santa. Really, really cute. And that was, I think, my first solo ID project in that role. So I really wanted to make a huge impact. I met with the product owner, super charismatic person, really passionate about it, talked about how much time it took to code it, and, how it was just going to be a really great thing for the company. And I was really picking up this person's energy. And I was like, oh gosh, like, this person is really passionate. I want to do it justice. I want to make sure everything is going really well. So uh, we talked, and it's like, you know what? I think we need to make sure that all of our call center associates have a mandatory training on this. And I don't remember the duration. Like I said, it was a long time ago, but I want to say it's like 15 minutes or 30 minutes, something like that. Pretty big hunk of time, considering that this was also during Q4, which is one of the busiest times at that organization for reasons I'm sure you all understand with holiday buying and all of that. So, I put together, I thought was a great course. I made sure I hit all the high points and really wanted to set the customer service associates up for success if somebody called in to troubleshoot this app to make sure that it didn't ruin anyone's holiday if they were wanting their children to put that list together. So I did it. I worked with our workforce partners, made sure that associates had time out of production to take it, all the bells and whistles, right? So I do that. You think about all the associates, you think about all the time. It's now January. I have a one-on-one with my manager, and it had in the invite one-on-one Santa, like talk Santa or something like that. And I knew it was about that particular project. And so we had an opportunity. We can mine the data after the fact to tell how many times customers contacted us about it. So I'm curious. Go ahead in the chat for me. How many, just from a percentage of Q4 after launching that, what percentage of contacts do you think that we had? Okay, got 1%. Okay, 0.50. Give me a little bit of credit, Heather. Hopefully not zero. Guessing low. Yeah, I want to say, if I remember correctly, it's pretty close to what Sophie said. It was not even a full percentage point. All right. And the minute that my boss said that, I sunk down and I said, "Oh my gosh, like they're going to walk me out of here. Like I'm cooked. I'm not going to have a job." And I'll never forget this. She asked me what happened. I told her, I said, I was charmed. I really wanted to do a great job. I really wanted to represent this product. I didn't want to ruin anyone's holiday. I had all these answers, right? She said, well, yeah, that person is the expert in that product, but you're the expert in learning, and you should have stood up and said something about that. And she's like, so what did you learn from this? And I said, well, I learned that I need to ask more questions and stand up. She said, yeah, and don't let it happen again. What a formative learning experience. So I never asked what are we trying to achieve with something like that. I just trusted that that subject matter expert had my best interest. And I think a lot of new learning and development professionals have that same thing that happens to them, right? So I'll go ahead and put this here. Ouch. Hey, you know what? Again, I'm very lucky I had that as a formative learning experience, truly. So I want you to go ahead and think about, maybe a project that you're working on. What is the purpose and what do you think the light is that guides it? And I'll give you a second to kind of noodle on that. If you want to share, you most certainly can. If you don't, that's completely fine as well. I just want you all to think about it and maybe noodle it for just a moment. But don't be like me. Don't do that. All right. So, what is it that we're trying to achieve? Remember, disruption without purpose is just noise. So, what is it that aligns and gets it to where it needs to go? All right. Moving on. How's this going to impact others? That same example, I did not think about the long-term impacts. I knew that it gave associates a break throughout the busy Q4 process, and I knew that that was going to, be good for them, but long term, it wasn't good for the business. I really think that you need to think about, is something that we're putting together, is it going to enhance someone's experience? Is it going to make something more accessible or engaging? And if not, it might not be the right fit here. Okay. Yes, Michelle. Casey, do you care to send the link to my resource page again? We'll put it in the chat, but I do also have a QR code at the end as well for it. Yeah, and this is being recorded. Yep, no problem. So when you are thinking about how it's impacting others, really think about it through this perspective of this lighthouse. The lighthouse keeper doesn't light the way for themselves. You're not turning that light on just because you like light. They're doing it because they want to help sailors, navigate those difficult waters. And I feel like in that same vein, we really need to step into the shoes of our end users. We got to be that guiding light for them, help them navigate this complex material that we may have, new ideas, skill building, whatever that ends up being. Okay. All right. So take a moment. Again, if you want to share in the chat, you can. If not, no worries at all. Okay. Had that happen after my first project. It was during a live session after this. Me and I worked through topics and vetted never again. Yep. It's a good lesson too. Thank you for sharing. Really appreciate that. All right. And last but not least, what legacy are we building? Lighthouses stand for generations, hopefully, right? They offer guidance, and I think that true disruption really does leave a legacy that benefits future folks and practitioners. Yeah, I think it's really important to ask yourself, are you creating something that's going to continue to provide value, or is it just necessary for just a temporary solution? And there are things that you're going to build in your career that have a very short shelf life. And that's okay. Not everything's going to be a huge long-term disruption, but just balancing and thinking about it, or even if it's just something, if you build something that's a little bit more disposable and you learn something that can help you build something better next time or be more efficient or deliver content in a different way, that's still a win. That's still a win. Lauren says, I'm educating our industry on brains and how they function and how we design and ultimately how to understand who we are as humans. I'd like to think I'm making an impact and create. I think you are. Not just saying that because I like you. It's true. Yeah. All right. So again, this is on the resource sheet that I built out for you all. Um, but I think it's really important to think about, how you can shape some of these things as they're coming toward you. So, uh, just to recap, what is it that you're trying to achieve? How will this impact others? What legacy are you building? I think it can create a really powerful framework for intentional disruption. Okay. Um, Again, before we move on, I invite you to just kind of think about that a little bit more. And I do have those questions on the resource page for you as well. Oh, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. Okay. So here's where we're going to turn up the heat just a little bit more. Okay. So I promised my friends here at ELB that I will keep it to the hot side of the Taco Bell hot sauce scale. We're not going to go Diablo, but I am going to turn this up a little bit. Okay. Because I do think that when we think about disruption, it is essential from a lasting impact perspective that we think about inclusivity. Okay. So I think for any disruption to really reshape our environments, it's critical that everyone needs to be represented, included, and empowered. Okay. Um, just because I feel like we represent everyone in our organizations, and it's critical that we do as much as we can to uplift everyone. Okay. Like to think that when we are inclusive, we're going to be building bridges that connect people from different backgrounds and experiences and perspectives and allowing everyone to move forward together. But when we lack that, we've seen it in our orgs, we've seen it in our lives. When we lack that, it can create walls, can block people out from moving forward while others succeed. So I really think true disruption in learning and development means creating bridges, pathways, and empower everyone regardless of their background. Okay. So I'm slowly going up the spice scale here because I think as we do that, it is so critical that in our leadership journeys that we have mentors and sponsors, okay? Mentors and sponsors. And a nice way to think about this is I think about this as mentors guide, but then sponsors advocate. So you may be wondering, okay, what does this mean? So, I feel like I'm going to start kind of on the left side here. Mentors help you understand unwritten rules of an industry or organization. They offer honest feedback and tell you some stuff that you may or may not want to hear. Not just praise, but real candid insights to help you grow. And mentors can also share lessons learned so that you can help avoid making the same mistakes. Now, here's where I'm going to get a little bit spicy, all right? For, I will say, 85% of my career, I've had to find a mentor outside of my organizations. You may or may not find this person in your organization, and that's okay. You have to feel comfortable and confident building some of those outside of your organization. Okay. Um, from a sponsor perspective, um, actually, let me go back here for the mentor. So, if you're maybe transitioning into leadership, mentors will guide you on how to manage people. Sometimes they can help you navigate office politics and also avoid common pitfalls. But when I think about sponsorship, the sponsors don't just guide you, but they push you forward. They say your name in rooms where opportunities exist. They recommend you for roles, projects, and promotions. A sponsor believes in your potential and actively creates paths for your success. You need both. And as you can see here on the bottom, neither one of these folks asks for your credit card number. That is a coach. Bugs me to no end when people are like, oh, yes, I'll mentor you. Give me your credit card. No, no. Those are coaches. It's different. Okay. Now, here's where we're going to dial it up to fire, my friends. Probably shocking no one throughout this. There's a lot of research. There's some stuff from Gardner, there's some stuff from Deloitte, but it shows that even outside of learning and development, just in general, women receive mentorship more than men, but men often get sponsorship more than women. So, what I mean by that is women are guided, but not as frequently advocated for when opportunities arise. So, I believe we really need to change that dynamic by seeking sponsors and by being sponsors for other people. All right. So, if you're kind of looking for, okay, I don't know kind of what to look for in this, if you're looking more for a mentor, I think you need to look for someone who has been where you want to go. All right. I think you need to ask for guidance and feedback. And I think you also need to be specific with what you're looking for in a mentor. How do you get sponsorship? Building relationships with people, being visible in high profile projects, and quite simply, you make good on what you say you're going to do. I know that sounds so silly, but delivering results, sponsors back people that do what they say that they're going to do. Because going back to what I said in the beginning, people hire people and promote people that they want to work with and they know are dependable and are going to get the job done. So I think it's critical. I know there's a lot of talk in our spaces about mentorship. I don't hear enough people talking about sponsorship, and especially the higher you climb in your career, the more you're going to need sponsorship. And you can get sponsorship outside organizations, but but it is critical internally to have that for your career growth if you're wanting to build a career in a company. Also really critical that you sometimes you got to ask for what you want. You know, I think that it's too often we hesitate to ask for that, whether it's a promotion, a recognition, a leadership role, or a challenging project. One of my favorite stories, real quickly, of a mentor of mine. Uh, we worked at the same organization. She was, a great colleague of mine, really lifted me up, really helped me uh, understand the organization dynamics. She went to lunch one day with a former colleague of hers, and the person said something and asked for her advice on it, and she gave her advice. And this person looks across the table at her and says, I would love to work with a person like you. And she said, well, make me an offer. I just thought that was so ball. And guess what? She got an offer and ended up leaving the organization and, took on off. And I just, I would be so chicken to do something like that, but hearing her tell it and do it, yeah, you have to ask if the answer is all, oh, you don't ask, the answer is always no. Absolutely. I got it out eventually. But yeah, I love it too. Another one. This is actually one of my skip level at my current job was talking about how she left the organization and came back. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, how did you come back? She said, oh, I was, out, took time off to raise my kids. And then I got a shoulder tap about coming back and facilitating something that, I had worked on. And with that, they said, hey, we'll bring you back for a 2-week contract if that works. The day before she was supposed to do it, they said, oh, sorry, it's canceled. And she said, okay, well, you're either going to pay me or find something for me to do for 2 weeks. Again, another bold move. And with that, ended up they set up a little temp position for her, and then that got her back in the org, and the rest is history. So don't be afraid to ask for what you want. If you want something, ask for it. You're not going to be pushy. If you're rejected, then that's fine. Just move on to the next thing. But I think so often we get in our own little mind and get worried about, well, what if they think this, or what if they say this? Let them. Highly recommend Mel Robbins' Let Them theory if you haven't had a chance to check that out. Let them. Just keep your head up high and keep going, you know? Um, yeah, Catherine, sometimes you just have to pivot and go on, you know? And that's fine. Just because it's a no today doesn't mean it's going to be a no tomorrow, right? All right. A couple other things. When you're wanting to just build out again with your, I don't know, just building out a journey and making sure that you're set up for good when it comes to your leadership. Here's some of the things that I do that works really well. One is tracking your wins. So I have a spreadsheet that I keep on everything that I do on a weekly basis. I have, what I did, what I impacted, any people that maybe I met in the organization. And, I keep track of that. So that way, when I have those check-ins with my manager, when I have those opportunities at the skip level, I can say, hey, look, here's all what I did in Q1. This was my impact in the org. Um, you're giving yourself a kind of a performance review with that, but you're showing receipts as to why you have done what you say that you've done, right? It's not just, oh yeah, I worked on this or I did this. think of it as like a win journal, or and it also helps you shape metrics in order to tell your story. For anybody in the audience that's people leaders, one thing that I got from another mentor of mine is anytime that somebody works on a big project, I help them quantify that and I give them a bullet or two for their resume. So I think it's really critical. Resumes are always living. There are things out of our control. We could go into work tomorrow and lose our jobs. Not that I want that to happen to anybody, but it can happen. And so, if we have an opportunity to help shape that and tell that story and help others have that story, I think that's really important. Another big one, speak up about your work, because if you don't own your work, someone else will. I think there's probably a lot of things that have happened, definitely with myself, I'm sure others here, that you could probably give examples of. And I definitely think also as women, we often say we instead of I. I'm guilty of this a lot. But if you did lead a project, if you came up with an idea, say it. Don't shrink your role. Don't shrink your role. And finally, negotiate without apology. Men negotiate 4 times more often than women. Women who do negotiate, are likely to get something a little bit more, but research shows that when women frame negotiations a collaborative win, they often achieve the best outcomes. All right. A couple other things as I wrap up, and then I'll get over to Q&A. That project that you never wanted, that might be that thing that boosts your career. Years ago, I was assigned to a project about writing assessment questions for career technical education in the state of Ohio. Candidly, I was really mad when I got assigned to that project. I was like, I I do learning development. I don't want to do this. Ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. I learned so much about assessment. I put myself out there. I ended up putting together an e-learning with a colleague of mine that won a couple awards. I got to meet Susan Manos, who's here in the chat around that. So, I mean, it really was a catalyst in my career, and I didn't even want to do it to begin with. You just never know. So if you're thinking it's too difficult, I'm not ready, what if I fail? I'm going to challenge you to think about, hey, you know what? This is going to stretch my abilities. I can learn and adapt as I go. And even if I fail, I can gain experience. All right. Here's some other things too. I always think it's worth taking the risk because you can gain skills, you can build resilience and adaptability. But then if you're afraid to take it, here's some of the things that more likely than not will happen. All right. So, 3 pillars of intentional leadership and leading through disruption. Number one, make sure you're building those meaningful connections. If you don't have a sponsor, if you don't have a mentor, get one today, okay? Get one today. Ask people, talk to them. Remember, mentors guide, sponsors advocate, okay? Number two, start advocating for yourself. Track those wins. Speak up and negotiate without apology, okay? And third, embrace disruption. Sometimes the hardest moments in our lives give us the most growth. Think of disruption as a way that we can challenge ourselves to grow into different things. With that, if you want to connect with me, there are the ways to connect. And I didn't put the QR code there. I will put another link in the chat for the resource page. And then, Casey, will you help me with the Q&A?
Absolutely. So,
Perfect.
a couple of questions from Victoria. She asks, when you're trying to build an audience on LinkedIn, how do you determine what's worth being authentic or transparent about? What boundaries do you set?
Oh, I think they kind of come out and meander as you put your content out there. So, for example, just the job list, right? I cannot tell you all how many resumes I got, how many people said, "Hey, I'm interested. Can you give me information?" I'm like, "Listen, I'm not I found myself saying I'm not a recruiter so many times. So then I now on my list say, "Hey, by the way, I'm not a recruiter." And I started with that. And then after that, then people are like, "Oh, well, I live in Canada. Can you make a list of jobs for me?" Or, "Hey, I live in Europe. Can you make?" And I'm like, I don't have time for that, y'all. So then I'm like, "Hey, I'm not a recruiter and I'm not a restaurant." All right. I'm just somebody so I think they kind of meander as you go. And it's completely okay to set those boundaries as you're going, I think, if that's helpful at all.
Perfect. And then one more question from Victoria. When disruption causes friction, what communication techniques do you utilize to move the conversation forward? And when you do determine it's time to let go or move on because I'm sorry, do you determine it's time to let go or move on because people are at an impasse?
Ooh, man, it's a tough one. I will say one of the things I've probably struggled with the most in my career is I am very blunt and direct. I am very what you see is what you get, and it is my style to go into a room and say, "This isn't working. This is stupid. Why are we doing it?" That gets you nowhere. So, really, from a communication standpoint, why do I have that reaction? Well, it's silly because we don't have enough resources to handle it, or we haven't done our due diligence. So coming in with kind of going to the root cause of why am I so angry or uncomfortable about it, that at least helps tailor the conversation. Like, okay, is anyone else feeling this way? Is this a pulse check? Like, how does everyone kind of feel about that and go? Now, yes, there's sometimes that you have to break up with a client. There's sometimes that you have to walk away from a job. There's times where you've been in an organization and you've went the highest that you can go, and you have to make that determination. Am I going to stay or leave? And ultimately, that's something inside you that you have to figure out. But I think it's really great to bounce ideas and just chat with other people that maybe don't have that emotional piece, because so often that emotional piece can cloud good judgment for us.
Awesome. That's all the questions we have in the Q&A chat, and we're just about at the hour mark, but wow, this was so good, Kara.
Well, thank you. And there's the Walling again. If you want to get those resources, please feel free. The only thing I will part with is please tell somebody that you love them today, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. Really critical, especially with everything going on in the world. I think no one's going to be sad if you tell them that you love them today. So just take the time.
Awesome. See, this was equal parts spicy, fiery, and heartwarming too. I mean, and thought-provoking.
Thank you.
Dude, so awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Like we mentioned, we will send the recording to everyone who registered. We appreciate your time and we appreciate your expertise and wisdom, Kara. Thank you guys so much.
Yep. Pleasure. Thank you.